This is History for Cocktail Parties with hack historians Thornton Kennedy and James Ottley.
Welcome to episode 3 on the Masters Golf Tournament. This is History for Cocktail Parties, and this is Thornton Kennedy coming to you live from my home studio. I had to jump in here because James and I did about 50 minutes on the Masters, and we needed to cut it somewhere, so this is a bit of a rough transition. In just a second, we're going to get back into the tournament, into Bobby Jones's service during World War II, and then talk about how the Masters Golf Tournament became a tradition unlike any other. So, without any further ado, let's get back to it. It was known as a major immediately, which is interesting to me.
Yeah, I agree.
You had 4 majors when Bobby Jones wins them for
brand new tournament.
Right, 1930. This is 4 years later.
Right.
And it's the British Open, which is just the Open, the British Amateur, the U.S. Open, and then the U.S. Amateur. And suddenly the Masters gets elevated to a championship. Now, some say that it was right out of the gate. Some say it was Gene Sarazen's. He won it the second year. The shot heard around the world. He shot a double eagle.
Wow.
I'm not good enough at golf to understand what a double eagle is.
But it's a really good score.
I'm pretty sure it's on a par 5 hitting a hole in one. No, I don't actually know
that might be a little bit of a
So I think that some referred to it as a major right out of the gate. Some took a little bit longer time, but it was pretty immediate that it became this iconic station. I don't understand how it happened, but I think it was just good old-fashioned PR.
I'm chuckling a little bit. We got 2 guys talking about the Masters. I don't know what a double bogey.
I don't know what a double eagle is.
Right, double eagle. Anyway, all right, we'll look that up. It's lost all credibility.
All I know, James, is that when I had the opportunity to play Augusta National, I did not get a double eagle.
Right. So fast forward a little bit to the war years. Club was shut down, and believe it or not, there were 200 head of Hereford cattle grazing the golf course.
Really?
Yeah, during the war years.
So excuse my ignorance, but they suspended the Masters during World War II.
They had to. They must have. They had to.
You couldn't hit into a
hard to hit around the cows. Right? So the superintendent, he didn't have any grass to cut, so he spent his time raising turkeys. And then Cliff Roberts came up with an idea. He said, why don't we smoke some of the gobblers? And they did that, and they sent the smoked turkey to each of the members and sold the rest. Jones, during that time, applied for duty in the Army, even though he was exempt 3 times over. He was exempt because he was too old.
That's incredible.
He had dependents, and he was medically exempt as well. He had 2 varicose vein surgeries on his legs, and that also was exempted him. He was commissioned in the Army Air Corps, and he learned or was trained to be a prisoner interrogator. Oddly enough, he didn't end up doing that. He ended up actually shipping out to England in 1943 and found himself in a foxhole on the beaches of Normandy one day after D-Day. What? I know, it's crazy. I think Bobby Jones in a foxhole. I mean, I'm not making this up.
And he went over there as a prisoner interrogator and was on the front line?
He was. For 2 months, he was at or near the front lines, which is just crazy.
So let's talk about the iconic green jackets.
Okay.
Right? So we all know that the victor of the Masters gets this green jacket. Well, the green jacket was one of those Cliff Roberts innovations.
Really?
And we really do kind of got to get into Cliff Roberts' many, many innovations, which is what elevates the Masters into being what it is today. So he figured that the members should wear green sports coats so that they could be recognized if the patrons had any questions about the tournament. It was a way for them to stand out on the golf course. The tradition was expanded to winners being presented with green jackets in 1949. Sam Snead was the winner that year. He got the first green jacket. And all the previous winners were retroactively ordered green jackets. 1949 was the first green jacket, and then if you had won, Horton Smith was delivered a green jacket after the fact.
And you almost had your hands on a green jacket, is that right?
Yeah, your good friends. Shout out to Charles Jones. My grandfather, both my grandfathers were members of Augusta National, and I always wondered what happened to their green jackets. Well, your friend Charles Jones told me the green jackets don't leave Augusta National. They stay on the grounds. He said that I could probably call and they would know exactly where Alfred Kennedy's green jacket is to this day.
It did not end up
being cremated
or at a nearly new used clothing store.
I figured Mama had just had somebody remove it and taken to the nearly new. That was my idea.
Well, you also mentioned that Cliff really ruled that place with an iron fist. And
it's very interesting how he saw the tournament for what it could be and was very laser focused. You know, Bob Jones was out there glad handing and having a great time and playing golf and just enjoying it. Cliff Roberts saw this thing as a juggernaut, and he made sure that would happen. The CBS television contract
were 1-year contracts. So
started in 1956 or something.
I believe that's right. And he made them intentionally 1-year contracts,
so he could yank it.
They could yank it like a choke chain on a dog.
I believe the Masters was the first golf tournament ever broadcast on the radio.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And those leaderboards, you know, as somebody who's been fortunate to go out there and see the golf tournament, the leaderboards he was the first one to do the radios, the telephone sort of back and forth to update the leaderboards live as the golf tournament was going on. And before the Masters, your overall golf score just showed up. So if you had taken 180 strokes, it would say 180. It was at the Masters that they started saying 1 over par, 1 under par.
And that was Cliff Roberts.
That was Cliff Roberts.
That's interesting.
One of those innovations.
Back to the CBS, he had one announcer, again, this tight grip that he had on every aspect of the Masters. Apparently, eloquent announcer had referred to the crowd as the mob, and Cliff Roberts had him dismissed. He did not announce any more tournaments after that.
The other interesting thing, if you've ever been out there, all of the sandwich wrappers are green. Everything comes in green. Because if you drop a sandwich wrapper on the ground, on the grass, it won't show up on television.
Oh, that's brilliant.
If it had been a white wrapper, people would see that there was garbage on the ground. Cliff Roberts could not abide that. He wanted it to look clean and pristine on television. He was very on purpose. He understood that medium.
Speaking of the sandwiches, he's also rumored to have required the vendors, just the employees and the vendors, to cut holes in their pockets so that they could not, if they tried to pocket any of the money for selling these sandwiches, they would be caught because the money would fall down through their pockets.
And of course, it's still to this day, you can go out there and get a beer for $2. You can get a sandwich for, it's a very affordable concession experience.
And the merchandise as well, I understand.
And it's because Cliff Roberts believed if you were going to drive several miles, however far distance.
Or take a 24-hour train ride.
Right, that your entry into the tournament. I also have some interesting numbers on those first tickets to the Masters.
Let's hear them.
Let me see if I can find them.
Well, in the meantime, one of the other things that he was very rigid about in terms of the landscaping and just every little aspect, he actually even came up with the grass seed recipe for the fairways and the greens, and I believe it was, and it came down to it was very, very detailed. Every aspect of the Masters, he had his hand in, so to speak.
Yeah. Okay. So if you wanted to attend the Masters for the entire week, practice rounds, soup to nuts, in 1934 would cost you $5.50. If you just wanted to attend the tournament, you just wanted to be there Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And by the way, that Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday schedule, that was the Masters. Okay. Previously, if it had been a 72-hole golf tournament, you played 2 rounds on Saturday. So that people, I would assume it was kind of a blue law thing where you did not want people sitting in front of the TV on Sunday. The Masters changed that. They had the final round on Sunday. They were the first ones to do that. So if you wanted to attend the practice rounds of the Masters in 1934, $1.10.
Which was probably a lot of money back then, but still. It's just hard to imagine that he had trouble selling those tickets,
Had to give them away.
He
could not give them away. I had the same problem with membership. Is your story, he could not get people to sign up. And he was trying to get these New York folks to really buy in. Atlanta was important, but Cliff Roberts was a Yankee. And he wanted those Wall Street financier guys to be coming down to Atlanta or Augusta every year.
That Bobby Jones actually did not really make a huge effort to try and reach out to his Atlanta buddies for some reason, and I don't know why. That he only had 1 or 2 of his friends that were original members that helped underwrite the club. That he then went on to be miffed, apparently.
Can I say something controversial?
Please, go ahead.
This is very controversial, but I read it. It didn't come from Thornton.
Well, it must be true.
He was a bit of a snob.
Really? Okay.
That's why he didn't want to be a professional.
Interesting.
is because a golf professional worked for the golf club. He was a member of the golf club, and he would come in and play a round of golf at leisure.
Well,
and so he saw being a professional golfer something. So I imagine, and this is pure Thornton Kennedy speculation, that going and asking your friends to join a country club was not something he was interested in doing. You would just sign up because you were James Ottley's friend, and that would be the right thing to do. James Ottley would never turn around and say, "Hey, will you join the Breakfast Club?"
Then put your money out and invest. I'll buy that. That sounds legit.
It might be, or I might have just made it up. Right. I do know that he had this idea of an amateur being a higher level than a golf pro. Yeah. And that really got in his crawl. The gentleman played golf, and they got the honorific Mr. Jones. Okay. Golf pros were just called by their last name.
Interesting. Well, that certainly makes sense.
To a certain degree. Masters golf tournament, you could say it was immediately successful just because it did get the headlines and it achieved the goals that Cliff Roberts wanted it to. And Bob Jones ended up loving playing in the tournament. It ended up being a great opportunity for him to connect with a bunch of golf buddies and do... So the Masters golf tournament goes on to be exactly what Cliff Roberts had thought it was going to be. It got the headlines. It was successful. Bob Jones loved it because it gave him an opportunity to connect with his buddies and to hang out with the golfing community. So it really achieved its goals. The success is always pinned to Cliff Roberts and his iron fist, but the reality is that after World War II, the American economy took off. And there was a lot more, we'd come out of the Great Depression, come out of the World War, the roaring 50s, everything just went crazy. And we didn't talk about Eisenhower and Cliff Roberts.
You wouldn't let me.
Well, if you want to jump in there, Cliff Roberts had a very close relationship with Eisenhower and was his campaign.
It could be possibly even a supplemental episode, but it's because of Cliff Roberts that, first of all, that Ike got the nomination for the Republican ticket.
Is that right?
He enlisted the help of an Augusta National member who lived in California part-time but was from Virginia, and he got elected, basically. But you're right.
And Ike was a beloved member of Augusta National. There was Eisenhower's tree, which he always lobbied to have take down because he hit it every time he hit his golf shot.
Mamie's Cabin. Ike's Pond, which he had built for Ike. Definitely a relationship there for sure. For sure. Impacted world history.
And so the Masters takes off, and you have Arnold Palmer come through. You have Gary Player. You have Jack Nicklaus. And then later you have Tiger Woods. It just continues this meteoric rise to becoming the most important tradition, unlike any other, as Jim Nance coined it. But you do get to I mentioned that Alistair McKenzie passed away before the first tournament was played, which was really tragic that he had, put his blood, sweat, and tears into this golf course and never got to see the Masters grow into what it is today.
Never got to see the course after they had planted the grass. He never.
You're right. Yeah. I think, in fact, it was like 1932 was the last time he saw it. Maybe it was still.
And then he died in 34.
Yeah, he died right before the first tournament, which would have been in 34. Jones, shortly after all of this, he is diagnosed with this disorder of the spinal cord. Just tremendous pain, and he is ultimately restricted to a wheelchair.
That's right. He can't write. They have to sign his name. They put stick a pen through a tennis ball, and he can kind of possibly grab that to sign his name, and spends most of his time when he's at Augusta National in his cabin. And there comes a point where he's in such bad shape that Cliff Roberts said, God, it just probably wouldn't be a good idea for you to appear on the ceremony, the green jacket ceremony. Yeah. And I'm sure that was, in addition to being in pain all the time, not being able to participate in that, I'm sure that had to be a blow.
And one of the frustrating components of that is that if that had happened in 2025 or probably even the 1990s, it was treatable.
He didn't know that.
Yeah, he had some terrible surgeries performed on him that made it worse. And now doctors would look back and say, we could have provided him some relief. He just was in a lot of pain and just discomfort. Couldn't enjoy playing golf any longer. Right. He dies December 18th, 1971 in Atlanta, Georgia. Incredible legacy, Augusta National, the Masters. Every year the world is reminded of his 4 majors. No one has accomplished that to this day, which is just, if anyone was going to do it, and I know you're a big sports fan, it was going to be Tiger Woods.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly this young phenom was going to finally capture all 4 majors. And he captured the Tiger Slam, which was the 4 tournaments, just not in the same calendar year, whereas Bob Jones did it all in the same calendar year.
The Grand Slam.
The true Grand Slam. Great life, incredible legacy. Cliff Roberts continues to rule over Augusta National. You call him a tyrant, but there are some stories of his warmth. He was really loved that golf course and loved being there and was a friendly guy. But man,
you got to follow the rules.
If you crossed him, there was this famous story about one of the Augusta members who kept hitting his ball into this like water hazard. And he finally wrote a letter to Cliff Roberts and said, we've got to do something about this water hazard. And the water hazard had been known by this guy's last name because he hit it so often. So Roberts relinquished and spent some money and had the water hazard removed and then sent the member a bill for the improvements.
Yeah, you don't make suggestions.
You do not.
Well, there was another story that kind of, in terms of compassion or lacking thereof, but maybe more focused on being a rules follower, and that there was a member that had been in a plane crash and had awful burns and was finally able to come back and play. And Cliff Roberts, everybody that saw him, wished him well, and they were just almost brought to tears by this accident. Cliff saw him and said, "Where's your badge?"
That's fantastic. Good sense of humor.
Right.
Good sense of humor. And so Cliff Roberts has, just a Shakespearean end to his life. He gave everything he had to Augusta National Golf Course. He was 83 years old. He had suffered a stroke September 29th, 1977. A few months after being unable to leave his bed during Masters Week, Roberts received a haircut, got dressed into his new pajamas, and then journeyed down to somewhere along the water's edge on the par 3 course, and he took his own life.
Very sad, just like his father.
Right. Didn't his mother as well?
His mother also took her life also.
But I would argue that Cliff Roberts had gotten to the end of his ride and, had suffered the stroke. And that last week of the Masters, he was not able to get out of his bed.
Is that right?
And that drove him crazy.
But he also had seen that example in both of his parents. You were exactly right. It was his father, not his grandfather, which we talked about last time. And kind of a sad irony, his father had this disease that was debilitating. It was a neurological disease of the spine. And the name of the disease, in this kind of somber or sad irony, since he was run over by a train, the disease that his father suffered from was locomotor ataxia. And
that's crazy. It's a weird coincidence.
It is a weird coincidence. Very, very sad indeed.
So the legacy of these 3 men, the triumvirate, if you will, it's remarkable. It's remarkable that once a year the world's eyes really turn to Augusta National and the golf course.
Indeed. But we didn't mention there's kind of a mystery, actually, as to where his ashes
is that
cremated.
Right?
Mystery as to where his ashes were strewn. And there was a story that there was a TV, radio, film announcer, John Durr, who thinks he knows, where Clifford Roberts' ashes are, said that he had broadcasted for 5 decades, was a Robert favorite, and they were playing the golf course, Augusta National, one day, and they finished at 15. He asked Roberts if his ashes, when he died, might be sprinkled in the pond there. Durr had been stationed, had called out 15 of the 17 telecasts of the Masters, spent many wonderful hours, and Clifford said, "Well, John, that's somewhat of a morbid thought, and I don't believe the club would look favorably on such a request. This is a golf club, after all. It's not a graveyard. It's not a graveyard, so no." So when John Durr heard that Cliff had died by his own hand, he called his secretary. He said, "Where's Cliff buried, Mary? In New York?" "Oh, no, Mr. Durr. He was cremated." "He was? Well, where are his ashes?" "In the pond in front of 15.
Oh, my gosh. That's incredible. It's not
mystery perhaps.
You know
solved.
What? It's not a graveyard for anybody except for Cliff Roberts.
That's right. That's right.
The Masters is a tournament steeped in history, shaped by these 3 men with distinct but complementary roles. Jones provided the prestige and the vision. Roberts, the business acumen and the control, absolutely critical. And McKenzie, the artistry. Like I said, he was an artist. Their combined efforts created not just a golf tournament, but a revered tradition in sport. Augusta National remains a testament to their brilliance and a symbol of excellence in golf.
And if I may, It's kind of an interesting quote. One time, Mr. Roberts was told what a great tournament the Masters was. And he said in reply, he said, "Thank you. We never really get it right. We still feel that way."
That is an absolute perfect ending. Well done, James.
He was a perfectionist.
Absolutely. Thank you for listening to History for Cocktail Parties with hack historians James Ottley and Thornton Kennedy. Please like and subscribe. And now that the episode's over, you can go pour yourself another round, and we'll catch you next time.